Clear eyes, full hearts. Can't lose.
That's right. It's Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose. This is a special Monday edition of the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. This is episode 7 with special guests here today. And look, I am your host with the most time on his hands that also forgets to hit the live button. I am Thomas Tipple. You can find me at Thomas Tipple FF. And like Pat, I'm also one sick human being that enjoys using the call function on my cell phone.
Yeah, I mean, way to date yourself, but yeah, I am the last living human. I'm the youngest living human who still makes phone calls. I'm 35 years old. Everyone
33.
Born. I was born, not to give too much information out there, I was born August 16th, 1986. If you were born August 17th, 1986 or later, you've never made a phone call.
As your legal counsel, I encourage you not to give information to the total creepos that could be listening to this show right now. We do not know where our audience comes from. I mean, there's Canadians that listen to this show.
So if they're Canadian, they can't really do anything with my social security number, which is
sorry, what's that? Sorry, that's a social insurance number up here. My name is Jacob Sanders. You can find me on Twitter at ff_RTDB. My fun fact is that I leaned across my desk to grab a pencil today, and I tore my shirt like directly down the shoulder, and I didn't notice it for 3 hours because I'm wearing a sweater. And then I noticed, and now it's sad. That was a $5 Value Village shirt that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm known as Billy the Stone. You can find me on Twitter at Big Billy Beth. I've been drafting way too much Elijah Mitchell this offseason.
I've been drafting too much Calvin Ridley this offseason.
Oh boy. Too soon.
That's brutal. And of course, our special guest today is...
I am Patrick Daugherty. I am at ROTO on Twitter. My fun fact is that I don't really like my Twitter handle, but my real name is like too many characters. At Daugherty did not fit. So, like, I had to go with like the nickname, and I always thought it was like really like corny or whatever, but I like that it's at least memorable. And like now it's like, unfortunately, for better or worse, to some people I'm kind of like Neymar, or I'm just known as one word. Pat. And yeah, so I would have just been at Patrick Daugherty if it had the characters had fit, but they didn't. So now I'm like what do you even call that? A mono something?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Well, what I wondered is
when, yeah, exactly.
I remember that the first thing it was far before I ever actually had corresponded with you, but the first day that Roto World turned into NBCSportsEdge, my first tweet that morning was going to be, is Patrick Daugherty going to change his handle to at NBCSportsEdge Pat instead of Roto Pat?
Yeah, there are a lot of lawyers work on that. Well, we could have used your help actually, where I could have been forced to do it legally, but no, thankfully I got to keep the handle. And by the way, we brought back the Roto World branding a little bit, as you may have noticed. The
right
player news is once again powered by Roto World,
there we go. And
we're trying to like thread that needle there. But yeah, so the Roto World has been revived. It's still out there under the NBC Sports Edge umbrella. As you can see, if you're watching, I'm wearing an NBC Sports Edge 3/4 zip. It's very nice.
Oh, it's fancy. And before the guys start asking, no, I can't afford to supply those for us. So don't ask. Look, today we're excited to have you here, Pat. Not only am I excited to finally have another baseball fan on this pod so I can stop getting roasted about America's true game. But we get to talk to one of the true titans of the industry, and we appreciate you taking the time, of course, co-host of a good football show on NBC Sports Edge. Before we get into real football news, we just had something we wanted to ask here. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your journey, asking for a friend, as an up-and-coming show? A lot of our audience are other upcoming content creators, podcasters, etc. And what's your best advice as someone in the forefront of the industry?
Well, my advice always, unfortunately, is that there's no broad advice that actually works, because everything is so personalized and kind of random. But to me, so when I came up, everything's very writing focused. Not that it's not writing focused now, but I feel like a lot of people now get in the industry because they're good at numbers and statistics first, and then kind of try to add on the writing later. When I came up, it was always the exact opposite. You were just a writer, and I'm not good at, I'm not bad at advanced stats or analytics, but that's not how I got in the industry. I got in the industry because I was a writer. And so like my advice is always like more writing focused. So what I will say is that focus on your writing a lot, because now like for a while, like being good at like advanced stats, analytics, I feel like I'm like an old man. Like I feel like I'm using words incorrectly. Isn't like the differentiator it used to be. Like football for the longest time was like miles behind baseball in this stuff. But football is like finally catching up. And it's like not as big of an edge anymore to be like great at that, because there's just so much good stuff out there. So many just extremely smart people. And I would say to like just make sure you like don't take the writing for granted. And so obviously one way to get better at writing is to practice writing and to write a lot. But you also, I think like as important to becoming like a good or a better writer is like reading a lot. And not just like you read a lot in your areas of interest, but like try to like be a book reader. I'm seriously sound like I'm like 70 years old.
No,
but like,
we're about one more sentence away from Joe Biden telling us to turn the record player on.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one thing I always tell people is like read like as much as humanly possible, basically, because you pick up like so much stuff like through osmosis. And I think that's definitely like I had like formal writing training and everything. I went to journalism school. I took a ton of writing classes, so I had a lot of formal training, which of course helps a lot. But like to get better as a writer, reading is just as important as writing. I sound like a second grade teacher. Yeah, like you pick up so much through osmosis, and like it's clear too. Like if someone comes, and like in college, I used to edit the arts and entertainment section of our school newspaper, and it was like very clear when like someone like submit like an album review, and like it was like very clear when they like didn't read album reviews. And it's kind of like the same thing like football writing or like blurbs at Roto World. Like if someone comes in for like a trial where it's like very clear if like they're not like steeped in that world. So you got to be steeped in that world. You got to read as much as possible, so on and so forth. And that now you guys have all just passed second grade.
I think it's interesting though, Pat, because I kind of agree. Like a lot of people were asking me sort of this off season because I had planned on developing like some more models and some more stuff, and then I don't know, I've just been super busy with like.
You should still do that, by the way. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that.
No, but it's like a lot of people are saying like, oh, like, do you have your own model? And I was like, yeah, you know what, like I'd like to at some point. But then I looked at it, I was like, man, like the oversaturation of like the model is definitely a thing, to the point that it's like I feel like, if I'm being honest, like the biggest value add of like creating a new one is ultimately like to me rather than to the consumer. In the sense that like, like I'm probably providing a lot more unique advice if I just take like the work of others and talk about how to apply it and talk about it strategically and try to occasionally be funny. We've definitely reached a new point in time where, someone's like, novel idea, a wide receiver model. And it's like, oh wow, yards per team pass attempt. Like,
Yeah. For a while, there was like a dearth of that stuff. And like, baseball, like you don't even have to try. Like there's just so much great advanced stuff out there. Football, there was a dearth. Now football is finally catching up. And like we're to the point where like presentation is becoming like really important again. Not that it was ever not important, but like making your stuff as digestible as possible. And not, you don't have to like dumb it down, but just like thinking about the presentation, thinking about too, and just remembering like everything. I swear now I'm starting to sound like a 60-year-old newspaper columnist. We are like trying to entertain too. And like, so like, especially on our podcast, like I don't ever want it to be like the joke hour, like the boomer hour, but also to remember like people driving in their car, they're not going to like pull over the car and like write down. Like,
why would you ever podcast with Denny though? He's not funny in the slightest. I've never once heard him attempt a joke.
I know. He's an awful person. I'm trying to get him off the show. Actually.
I mean, oh, that's so good. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for that. That's appreciated for real. I just want to shout out the people that are here. The usual suspects are always here with us. We have Dave, Toronto Dave, my man, always shouting out the Blue Jays and everything Toronto related. Bless right here. That's what we do. We have Lucas over here. He's coming in from Twitch. That's a cute Hertz. Thank you, sir. We love that. And we also have Bryce. He's also coming in from the Twitch audience. Big shout out to you too, sir.
Yeah,
Much
that's,
love.
that's how you get your
Appreciate
comment
it.
on the live stream is if you call Tom sexy. So I guess.
Look, this podcast since it's begun, there's always been specific ways to gain favor through crowd and employee. It is compliment how I look and always mention the Ravens in good fortune. Like that's it's the surefire way. Look, hey, we're gonna get into it.
Real quick, did you guys know the Ravens were 8-3 and then didn't win another game?
I don't want to hear it. Look, that was a great show with Pat. No, look, we're getting into all the football talk, the Dewey cares and all that. But first, we're actually going to kick it off with the Billy Stat Corner, Pat edition. If you're new to Billy Stat Corner, I'll explain it when we get back. Here's a clip from one of our previous episodes. This was last week's with Steven Johnson of ChiCitySports.com. Sit tight when we come back. We are going to get into Billy Stat Corner. Jacob, I don't even think I need to ask you this, but I'm going to anyway because I respect.
Oh God,
you,
who changed my name to Kenny Pickett QB1 while I was looking up Herbert stats? I'm trying to find stats on Khalil Herbert to add to the show, and all of a sudden I support the small-handed.
Oh my goodness! We don't judge here.
Not personally.
Look,
sorry, Kenny.
see, Jacob, you say that not personally, but it really started to sound like there was a personal vendetta against the small-handed. So
I mean, all I can say about Kenny Pickett's hands is that if you're going to be an NFL starting quarterback, your hands probably shouldn't be smaller than an NBCSportsEdge Blurbers. And best of luck, Kenny. Best of luck.
That's great. Look, if you are new to Billy's Stat Corner, this is how it works. See, Big Billy over there is a master of the hard to find, no one knew about statistics. So I'm assuming he's going to find a way to put MVS into this one again. But look, this is how it's going to go. Myself, Jacob, and Pat are going to team up to try to beat his question. We get 3 strikes and 1 guess. Billy, if you wouldn't mind, please hit us with the old stat.
I'm glad you brought up MVS because he was right on the border of getting into this question.
I knew it.
He was number 4 this week. But,
Okay.
So, the question for this week. Since 2018, which wide receiver has the most yards per reception with more than 50 receptions? So this is Dane Cruikshank or something with 1 reception for 66 yards.
In a season or total?
Totally.
Okay.
And so it's 3 strikes. We have to guess top 3.
Yep, 3 strikes, top 3.
Okay.
All right. And we do get 1 hint, by the way, Pat,
get a hint.
Yes.
if and when we ever need it. We usually need it, by the way.
50 or more since 18 or 19?
18.
18. Wow.
Okay. So 4 years. That's plenty.
So he got us
Even
with
MVS
Darius
can make
Slayton
it.
last time. Is that one close?
He's in the mix. He's in the mix.
He got us with Slayton last week, so I'm just assuming it's going to be.
I was very
callback.
proud of that Slayton poll.
No. Here's a guy. I don't know if he has 50 receptions, but he had 198-yard reception. Do you think Olamide Zaccheaus could be on the list?
I doubt he has 50 catches. He probably does actually. He's probably just up against it.
The Greek god of pointless targets.
I see D-Jax in the chat. That's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, so should I just say a guess? How does this work?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we tend to confer, but if you want to you want to fly solo, I support that.
Well,
however,
can I say a name and it doesn't count as a guess?
Yeah. I will submit. I submit our final answer.
I feel like Rashad Perriman, despite being like just a guy, is probably still in the mix because he probably only has like 60 catches, but he probably averaged like 18.2 yards on those.
So I was thinking,
like Perriman.
I was thinking Perriman and Chark because Chark has to have 50 catches, right?
I think.
Yeah, Chark. His one big year, he had a really high YPC that one year.
But if it's yards per catch, but since 2018, you kind of want to have a limited amount of catches with a lot of deep balls, right?
Yeah,
to hit that right. So that's why I think Chark would be there. But I like Perriman
Guyton in the chat. I don't know if Guyton has enough catches, but he might.
Guyton probably does have enough catches. I'm wondering if Deontay Harris has enough catches.
That's right. That's right, Dave. That's what's up.
Yeah, Deontay Harris is definitely possible. Honestly, Mike Williams had 1 year where he had like 49 catches for 1,000 yards.
I think Mike Williams is allergic to catching a ball, A, on his feet, and B, short of 10 yards.
Because it was the
I like
2019 season that Mike Williams had 1,000 yards on less than 50 catches. Which
Dude,
is
I think
ridiculous.
AJ Brown might have set the record for the fewest catches to 1,000
gosh.
yards.
Right. I like AJ Brown actually, which
So
would fit.
So we've talked about 8 names, and maximum 3 can be correct. Probably less than that.
So I like
what
AJ
if
Brown.
we tried guessing one? Let's
I
try
like
that.
AJ Brown. Are we go with AJ?
He got so high volume though.
Did he?
I mean, he got higher volume.
Back.
He got
I'm
higher
not
volume.
big on the AJ one.
You're
Like,
not
didn't he
big on it, Jake, you said?
No,
Okay.
because this year he didn't really this year he was the efficiency really cratered.
Okay. What about Mike Will made it? Are we?
I
good
like
with,
I like Mike Will made it.
I
Okay.
wonder if he got too much volume this year to kind of drag that down.
But towards the end of the year, his catches were fairly long, right? I mean,
I like Guyton, to be honest.
Okay, well, let's try
okay.
Guyton if you want to try
Billy,
Guyton.
give
Well,
us.
sorry, hold on. You don't have to defer to the guest.
No,
No, it's
no.
guest rights. We are not. I'm
Jalen.
not Walder Frey. I respect guest rights.
Okay, let's go. Fullback, wide receiver, Jalen Guyton.
Jalen Guyton is up there, but he is not in the top 3.
Oh, what did he have?
Fuck you, Pat.
I know. I don't get any more guesses.
Jalen Guyton had 16.25 yards per reception.
Okay, well, that's
Oh,
good.
okay.
Now we know what we got to beat. We got to beat
Okay.
16.25.
Yeah,
That's
there you
pretty
go.
Steep. That's a pretty steep
I'm
number.
going to Brashad Perriman's football reference.
Okay.
I like Perriman. His
I think Djax
I don't
has
like
to be on the
him,
list.
but-
by the way.
Djax
but since
might be on-
2018.
I can't see how Djax isn't on the list.
Oh, dude, I keep forgetting it since 2018. I was thinking 19. Brashad Perriman has averaged 17.8 yards per catch since 2018.
Well, then he's on the list, I bet.
He's almost got to be on the list.
Okay,
true.
let's go Perriman.
Yeah, although no
Re-
cheating in the future.
Rashad Perryman is number 3. He
There
made
you
the
go.
list.
Oh, yeah, I did cheat though too, so I'm gonna close. I'm gonna
It's
close
allowed.
PFR. I'm closing PFR.
Okay.
I didn't do StatHead. I didn't go to stat. I didn't do
you go
the
I
actual
respect
list.
it.
You didn't
I
go
didn't
stat
do
I
the actual
news?
looked up
list.
the information.
So we have
Okay.
Djax again in the chat.
I mean, I don't see how
Hollywood did
Djax
not-
isn't on the list. He
Yeah,
has,
I think
Dave-
Jacob's right. Djax and Tom, he's almost certainly got to be on the list.
Okay, we're gonna go Deshawn Jackson, or the body
Djax
of.
is number 1 at
Okay.
almost 20 yards per reception.
There's the chat. We're at
That's insane.
2. So this would be
Okay.
a great time. Can we
For the
use our
hint.
guess?
You can use
Or
your
our
guess.
yeah,
Our
You
hint,
are
our hint.
completely allowed.
We're gonna go
Our
for the
hint.
hit.
Shut up, Billy. Give us our hint.
So our hint is that all 3 of these players have in their career played for a team that was in the Super Bowl the last 2 years.
All right. So
So
Make
Jax
good
was
money.
obviously on the Rams. Perriman was on the Bucks.
okay, well, both of
Okay.
these guys were on the Bucks. Djax was on the Bucks.
Djax
Perriman
was also on the
Bucks.
Mike Evans
So they've all got to be in the Bucks. So
or
it could
Bengals?
be no, because Djax never played on the Bengals.
Oh, but
They didn't all play on the same team.
Jamar Chase has
No.
at least 50 catches though.
Oh, okay.
It actually is probably Jamar Chase.
Oh,
He
it
averaged
might
like
be
23
Jamar
yards
Chase.
per catch this year, didn't he?
He averaged
Okay.
a lot of yards.
We got
Let's-
Tyreek Hill, but he was
Tyreek's
really
his
short.
YPC went way down.
Way down.
Yeah, this year way down.
So
Mecole?
we have
Mecole?
two mistakes. So can we go? Oh, Mecole.
I think it's Jamar.
I like Jamar.
Is this people with 50 total catches since 2018?
Yeah,
right?
since
Yeah, I like
2018.
I think he
Okay,
averaged
Actually,
22.3 yards per catch this year. I'm not on his PFR,
Okay.
by the
Let's
way.
go.
Let's try Jamar.
Let's
not-
go
I'm
to
actually
Jamar
not, I
Chase
swear to
without
God.
controversy.
Okay.
Lock it
Oh,
in.
are we locking in Jamar?
Yeah, we're
We're
locking
locking
in
it
Jamar
in.
Chase.
All right, dang straight. Jamar is number
Let's
2.
go. That's a big.
Let's
That's
go.
a Billy
That's a
Stat
win. That's
corner
a
win.
win.
I don't care about the controversy. Put an asterisk next to it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
you put an asterisk by it. Yeah, it's
Billy, get yeeted. We defeated you. That's how it is. Look, when we come back, we're gonna get into Do We Give a Shit, which is our weekly news kickoff. So sit tight. Here's another clip from our show with Steven Johnson from TriCitySports.com. Enjoy.
Thank goodness wide receiver after today is turning into one of the more deeper positions.
Oh, yeah.
Just based on the way that these guys are running today. My God. Seeing some of these 40 times, it's going to be interesting now just to see who falls. I mean, you have guys that are coming off serious knee injuries that are running sub 4 or 5 times. And it's like, okay, like what exactly is going to be the shakeup here once the Bears get on the clock with the 8th pick in the second round?
That's right. Poor Steven and those Bears wide receiver when Jakeem Grant was their number one weapon for like 3 weeks. Poor team. But I mean, no first round pick.
List.
We'll see. Hey, I mean,
he had a high yards per catch.
Yeah, he really did, but he sucked though. Look, do we care? Do we give a shit? Is a little thing that we used to do when we were on Friday, but we kept the title because whatever. We're creative here. Look. At this point of the day, you've probably heard a lot of this news 672,421 times from people way smarter than most of us on this program. But look, obviously, lessons have been learned today, like learning how to use your cousin's FanDuel account when you're not supposed to be gambling. Look, guys, Calvin Ridley news. Obviously, we got to talk about it. It is the hot button topic, and we are actually fortunate enough to have such news like that. They knew you were coming, Pat. That's what this was. I want to go first thoughts. Can we start with? I know Jacob, you really wanted to talk about this.
No, everything should start. You want me to start over Pat over the
lawyer,
blurbster?
Well, no, let me start because I'm the guest, because I have a legal.
Oh, you have a tweet
for
Jake.
Jake.
Okay. Please.
Because I tweeted what I thought was a fairly obvious joke, where I tweeted NFL investigators. I tweeted it like the style of like a serious New York Times article. I tweeted NFL investigators did conclude that Mr. Ridley used no inside information when he bet $100,000 that Matt Ryan would take a third down red zone sack in the fourth quarter of the Falcons' Week 17 loss to the Bills. And it's gone like stratospheric on Twitter, where like everyone thinking it's real. And I'm like, is this lawyer gonna see this and like come like sue me and like defamation or something? Like, I thought it was like a very clear parodic post, but like so many people now are tweeting as if it's real, and I'm scared, Jake.
How does it feel to have that kind of influence on legal matters?
That's the fear of Twitter. Twitter does not understand sarcasm. Really, what it comes down to here is it's actus reus and mens rea, and the mens rea was clearly sarcasm. If I was Calvin, if you're watching this show, and I mean, as someone who clearly gambles, you probably do watch fantasy podcasts. If you happen to be watching this show, my advice is simple. If you want to hire me to help run your appeal, this would be my defense. I would simply say, Your Honor, Mr. Goodell, my client clearly has no gambling history because number one, he bet on the Falcons. Number two, he bet an 8-game parlay. I mean, my goodness. Like, that is, I put out my own tweet. I said he should be suspended from gambling for betting 8-game parlays instead of suspended from football for paying the VIG. I simply don't understand why Calvin really just chose to make that decision. As someone who covers gambling and sports betting and fantasy football for a living, I am just way more offended that he would choose to bet an 8-leg parlay than that he would choose to bet on his own sport. And in fact, I think that he should be suspended. I think that his accounts should be put on hold. I think it's irresponsible of whoever he bet on to take such a bad bet, especially when one of the legs of that parlay was the Atlanta Falcons having a victory. Like, does he even check DVOA? I just want to know.
Oh my God. Like, I'm not a big gambler outside of, thinking that I can actually win fantasy leagues. But I mean, if I did, I think the Falcons would have been not on my radar. I'm pretty sure there's obviously a ton of jokes and memes already because the internet is wonderful.
Yeah,
and
Twitter did a great job today.
Fantastic for everyone.
I saw some guy tweeting that he bet that Matt Ryan would take a third down fourth quarter sack or something.
I don't know who to tweet it.
I laughed.
I saw the over on Kenny Pickett's hand size.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley must have taken the under on Matt Ryan's yards when he walked away. Like, just a bunch of phenomenal tweets. Obviously, fantasy implications, Jacob, that means he's going to be a 30-year-old coming off injuries, inefficient, and one elite season, which means you're probably going to roster him 100% everywhere because he fits your mold.
As soon as a wide receiver either has injury problems, legal problems, any sort of problems, if they have 99 problems, but actually being on the field ain't one, they'll probably be on all my dynasty rosters at some point. I don't know. I expected to see, Ridley purchased for late seconds and early thirds, and I was pretty excited to go buy some Ridleys for that. And then the initial trades that I've seen, I saw Kadarius Toney traded for Ridley. I saw AJ Dillon traded for Ridley. I would not be trading legitimate players at this point, guys like Toney. I would prefer this is weird. I don't know that it's 100% certain he's just back on the field in 2023. That would be great. I'm not sure that I would say that's 100% thing. He stepped away for mental health reasons. He then gambled on football games. I hope he's back in 2023. I certainly wouldn't be trying to sell my shares low in Dynasty, but I wouldn't take that for a 100% fact.
No, like you said, with these guys would have this. It just seems like stuff seems to snowball. The guys who have odd issues doesn't, and obviously there's no that's not a metric or anything. But yeah, the fact that he's going to miss his entire age 28 season, is coming back for his age 29 season, will have appeared in 5 games, and before he even sat out in 2021. We know yards per catch is not a good statistic, but he was averaging 9 yards per catch. I don't know what was going on with him at all. It just seemed like something was off from the get-go this year, and it just seems hard to believe that he'll magically in 2 years everything will be back to 2020 Calvin Ridley, and it's just such a strange situation. But I also agree there's going to be so much value to be had, especially if you wait till this summer. People are going to be getting desperate. I think people will start unloading him for true pennies on the dollar, and he will become a great dynasty investment opportunity. But then he could be a Martavis Bryant investment opportunity where it seems it's almost too good to be true, and then very much is too good to be true. And totally different issues than Martavis Bryant had. But yeah, a lot of times when it's too good to be true in Dynasty, it is too good to be true.
Well, it's kind of if you bought into Antonio Brown and all of his nonsense, it kind of paid off for you right up until the Jets game. And then, but
in the fantasy championship, what, dude?
For second round picks, which is what you were getting him for the most part this season and last season, he paid off for you in points per game when he was on the field. He was fantastic. Calvin Ridley could be, I don't know, part of that, but I also don't think Calvin Ridley was that good when he was, deemed a top 8 dynasty wide receiver. That's weird to me, but
it is also weird with Calvin Ridley. We will have it'll be the year 2023 years since the birth of Jesus Christ, and we will still have never seen him really be effective without Calvin Ridley drawing bracket coverage opposite him. So it's just such a strange situation.
Yeah, it's not great. Billy, do you have any comments on the Calvin Ridley gambling incident before we move on to the next one here?
No, nothing too crazy to say that hasn't already been said by everyone else on Twitter. I hope everything is okay. Besides that, it's fun to make jokes about it, but yeah. Especially. Hopefully his mental health's in a better spot now. Yes, absolutely.
Absent the mental health aspect, it's definitely the funniest football scandal in many years.
Right.
An 8-game parlays is kind of
if that was not the case and that wasn't a part of the story, this is up there with Sam Darnold missing a game for mono.
I should scale back the jokes by 1%. You're right, Billy. Thank you for the humanity. No, it's true. I saw a great tweet by Cooper who said the same thing. Obviously he was dealing with mental health issues. Then he does this, and it's hard when it's hard when you fuck up and you're dealing with mental health issues on your own. It's harder still when you're a celebrity and multi-million people are firing off joke tweets at your expense. And he tweeted 6 times today. So he probably read all of your tweets. He certainly read yours, Pat.
Oh, I gotta delete that. I really gotta delete that.
He's calling a cop a lawyer right now.
So it is
lawyer. I've got it.
Yeah, my phone's on, Calvin.
It was an obvious joke, folks. Obvious. No one would ever even take a prop bet that big. 100K? Come on, man.
All right.
That's amazing. Okay, look, one more thing, and I want us to just do it quick because we're already sitting at 30 minutes. We haven't got into, most of the football stuff. But hey, look, Aaron Rodgers apparently was offered a contract that is Probably going to damn the Packers and ruin them for a few years.
Salary
But
cap's a myth.
that's
fine.
also true. I really
fine.
got to get in touch with Anand so he can explain to us why it's such a myth. But Billy, your boys offered allegedly, important words to use today. Aaron Rodgers, $100 million over 2 years with $70 million guaranteed. Are you worried? Like, you're excited that you get to keep Aaron Rodgers, but you pissed away a draft pick on Jordan Love now, which what looks like it's going to be a 4-year event. And now you're going to have to release half of your roster to keep, the Pat McAfee show icon on your roster. How are you vibing? Are you just excited? Like, I don't think there's any way they can keep Adams at this point unless they just move and get rid of everyone. But I don't know, score 50 points a game. I don't understand what's going to happen here.
No, I almost prefer this in the way that they're doing it now, rather than doing something like what the Saints are currently doing with Taysom Hill, where they're just pushing money into the future. Like, we can sign Rodgers for the next 2 years. He can play 2 years, and maybe he's Aaron Rodgers that entire time, and he's throwing all these touchdowns and all these yards, and everything could be fine. But in 2 years, we're off that contract. Whereas, like, there's teams right now that are just as far under the cap as the Packers, with like nowhere to go. Like, the Giants currently are $9 million closer to being over the cap than the Packers, and like they're doomed. Like, they're sitting on a Leonard Williams contract that they can't get rid of. But like all that to be said, like, if this is what it takes to get Rodgers back, and getting Rodgers back means we get Adams back, like, we have our entire O-line, Saints Daugherty, who is already factored into that contract, is pretty much rookies. And the only way that this worries me, or on rookie contracts, and the only way that this worries me is if it means we're not re-signing Rashawn Gary, Elton Jenkins, Jair Alexander. Like, I think that's the big three. And if that means we keep Adams and Rodgers for 2 more years, then that's the price of it.
You're just willing to send everyone else to the pit just to keep Rodgers for 2 more.
Yeah, burn it down.
They
Let's
were
go.
1 seed last year, basically without Jair and Bakhtiari, who were two of their 3 best non-quarterbacks, and they still won 13 games, right? So, like, this is a good team.
Yeah, and like, what, the cap's going up $25 million this year. I mean, it'll go up more next year. So it always seems like shocking, and it is a shockingly high number. But the Packers too are like kind of organization that have long hedged against like being the all-in organization. But like, if you're ever gonna do it, like, why would you not do it now?
Yeah.
Fair.
When like the baseline appears to be 13 victories, and they keep one of these years they're not going to suffer a fluky, devastating playoff loss, and they're going to.
Unlike Calvin Ridley, this is a smart, calculated gamble.
By the way, here's when I hear like dumb, sick football brain in my head. I briefly considered it's like, the Packers and Falcons should trade Jordan Love for Calvin Ridley straight up. That's just where my brain is.
I'm down.
I remember being live.
Ridley doesn't count against the cap this year, right?
Exactly. So whatever, they'll figure it out 2 years from now.
Madden trades.
That's like the dumbest Madden trade I've ever said out loud.
Yeah.
One of our first pods when we first started this, we were still just really podding for our home league, our league of record, was the draft of that draft, and I swear I keep forgetting, but I'm gonna go and get the audio clip of the Packers drafting Jordan Love just for Billy's reaction. That and AJ Dillon were just absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that AJ Dillon pick.
Can't forget Daugherty.
We need to talk about him. He doesn't get as much love because we drafted AJ Dillon and Jordan Love, but that pick should be included in those.
I mean, to be fair, like, AJ Dillon's good. He's unnecessary, but he's very good.
Yes. That's fine. I have no problem saying AJ Dillon is good. I'm glad he's currently on the Packers. I wish we didn't re-sign Aaron Jones last year if we were going to do that.
He's your slot wide receiver. It's fine.
Yeah,
he's your wide receiver too. Which, hey, Rodgers coming back. Small window to finally sell off your aging, ancient running backs. Look, we're going to take a quick second so you can get a break from our voices right now. Got another clip from last week's show. When we come back, we're going to talk the combine and get into some way too early previews. So sit tight, enjoy the video, and remember you can go like, subscribe, all that fun stuff on the Dynasty Vipers YouTube network, as well as the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. Sit tight.
The wide receiver position is arguably the biggest need for this team. Ryan Poles, the new GM, has come out saying exactly that and saying, we've looked at the historicals, quarterbacks that need to take that next step up, and it all boils down to one thing: going out and getting a wide receiver who can bail out his quarterback when he gets in trouble. And right now, the Bears don't have that on their roster. Yeah, Darnell Mooney is a solid player. He put together his first 1,000-yard season. Yeah, he needed 17 games to do it. But beyond that, here are the wide receivers that are currently on the Bears roster: Daz Newsome, Isaiah Coulter, and Nasimba Webster. That is it.
Oh, man, the more he talks about the Bears wide receivers, the more I want to cry. It is one of the saddest states. Like, I remember when the Ravens wide receiver core was like the ghost of Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, like
Texas
just
Tech legend.
Yeah, the worst of the absolute worst. And then he rattles those names off, and I was like, oh my God, I would take the 2018 Ravens wide receiver core. Look, it's the combine. Obviously, people are a little bit come down off of the high of all the misinformation of 40 times and all the BMI conversations. But if we were to wake up hungover from the combine, what's your one brief takeaway that you have yet to beat to death, Pat?
Well, my one takeaway is just like that I have no takeaway, where like the gun was so hot this year with the 40s. The scheduling was so weird. Like, so many people skipped the agility drills, which, like the most important part, according to at least a lot of people who are smarter than me. And, and to like kind of like a lack of star power this year, except for a receiver, like the running back. So I'm not like a draft guru. This is like about when I really kind of started getting into the draft class. Like, I feel like I still know nothing about this year's running back draft class. I feel like I'm still like barely interested in any quarterback who's not Malik Willis. And so like, my takeaway for the combine this year was just like, as a combine normie, like how little like moved the needle for me, basically. And like, I feel like I usually do come out of it like getting pointed in like a bunch of different directions, like interesting leads, basically, as a prospect normie. And this year I'm just like, whatever. It's like the combine like didn't even happen, basically. And like, free Charlie Casserly, by the way, he was apparently really good at the hand timing. And when they got a different hand timer this year, I was like, I'm pretty sure he didn't just run a 3.88 40, but I guess we'll wait for the official time. And yeah, so that's my like extremely unhelpful combine takeaway.
It is helpful. I just find it amazing that the NFL is so bad with technology for like a multi-billion-dollar industry with a bunch of MIT students as interns, probably horrifically underpaid, that they can't sync their data to what's happening in real time. Like, they were like,
bizarre.
The next gen stats combining live numbers and from their production and what we see on film for grades, can't get a 40 time down straight. Like, just completely unbelievable. Billy, what is your not beaten to death quick combine tidbit?
I hope this one isn't beaten to death, but I feel like it's been beaten to death over the last many years. But I feel like the combine needs like a change. Like, it's become very popular, and I think that's a great thing. But I think a lot of times these players, like, they've been on their feet, they've been doing interviews all days. The athletic training is at 7 p.m. at night. Like, I want...
That's dumb.
Yeah, I want... First off, I want it at, like, as soon as they wake up. I want them to choose when they're going to run, everything good. I want all that. Also, just 1 year, I want them to run it in pads. Just do it, then do it without, and see if the trends are the same. Like, if people are as fast in pads. That's all want.
You're saying Dry Archer would have never happened if they had run in pads? Is that what you're saying?
Probably not.
Can we get like an XFL like shoot for the ball drill? Just something. It's something else.
That's a bad idea. Did people get injured during that?
For the special, in the first one ever, the guy separated his shoulder and was out for the year. But they got the ball, and that's what matters to the old heads. Jacob, quick takeaways from the combine that you haven't beat.
Well, my takeaway is that the Olympics literally just happened, and so we just watched an event in which people go around in several different events that involve running fast with a timer, and then the events get timed, and then they say this person did it in X amount of seconds, and then the next person goes, and then usually after the last people are done, they tell us who was the fastest and they give them medals. And then in the NFL, they say, okay, everybody, those were the unofficial times. We will now be putting these in a hat, raffling them out to the highest bidder, and actually all of the records that you think were broken were not broken. Chris Olave, who ran over a tenth of a second faster than Garrett Wilson, was actually slower. And like, could you imagine? I just think that we would get so much more emotional turmoil if the Olympics ran that, where they were on the podium playing the Canadian national anthem for some speed skater. And then Rich Eisen came out of the booth like, no, we have the official times. We have the official times. Everybody stop the proceedings. The winner is Barbados. And like, I personally, as a fan of watching the human condition deal with adversity, I think that might help Olympic ratings because more people watch the combine.
Well, I was going to say, as an NBC employee, I should pitch this idea to NBC. Like, listen, like people might get mad about it, but the drama would just be insane. And we got to do Jacob Sanderson's suggestion for the Olympics, because
everybody loved the Academy Awards when La La Land didn't win Best Picture. So imagine that at the Olympics, like, and the gold medal goes to actually Moonlight. Yeah, it's,
By the way, shouts to Tom Everett Scott, who's in La La Land, is a huge fantasy head.
Oh, there we go. I personally just want an announced team of Steve Harvey and Rich Eisen, because no two people screw more names up in the history of live television than those two. And Rich Eisen is the GOAT. I have two quick ones. One, obviously, is can the Baltimore Ravens learn from the Indianapolis Colts and their turf? They had how many players doing those drills, and no one went down with the torn Achilles, yet no running back on the Baltimore Ravens could make it through their ridiculous practice dirt field thing without everyone going.
Well, it's Zoysia. Come on, man. Everyone yelled at me when I made fun of the Ravens practice field.
Oh, it's horrendous. It's really bad.
The other one is it looks like Sandlot. Like
it looks like something that would just give you asthma on the spot.
They're running on asbestos.
It's like a John Ford Western movie.
Yes. All right, how many more jokes can we pump out at the Ravens?
Lamar Jackson did a good job. The Searchers.
Oh my God.
This is the first time I've ever heard a John Ford reference on a fantasy football pod, by the way. I thought I was the only one.
That was solid.
And my main actual takeaway is, can we please just stop shooting rankings up and down because the guy ran real fast in a straight line? That if you haven't learned that's horrific process yet, it's like it's right up there with landing spot. Stop, I know it's fun to tweet about and stuff, but I see people actually fight one another in the comment sections and in league chat. Relax, it's a straight line. They're athletes.
Well, and Tom, to your point too, this year was not a good advertisement for the combine, this stuff really mattering. It's the team that just won the Super Bowl, the Rams, didn't even send their principals because they just follow the GPS data now. And then this week of all the botched times, people complaining the schedule wasn't optimized. It was not a good advertisement for the combine this year. And as Bill said, we could probably use some changes to the format.
I had a hearty chuckle at the idea of Tyquan Thornton just blazing. The dude looks down at the stopwatch and he clocked a 3.5. It's just oh shit. 4.2.
I loved I think it was James Cook who ran oh my God, a 4.48 or a 4.5 something. He goes, there's no fucking way. You can see him look into the camera because he's looking up. He goes, there's no fucking way I ran that. I was like, if that's not a testament to the times being absolutely abysmal. Look, obviously it is peak prediction season, and I know it's really early, but Pat, I just wanted to get some way too early 2022 previews from you. You're obviously working very hard at creating your ranks pre-free agency and the draft. And whether you're playing with Dynasty, grinding best ball tourneys, or on the dime of NBC, everyone has a reason to look ahead of the curve. So could you please talk to us about the process and how to project forward with an edge in the face of so much uncertainty at this point in the season?
I'm playing on Calvin Ridley's dime, by the way, after he lost several bets and too soon.
I think Calvin Ridley is playing on your dime after that.
Yeah, good point. Please don't sue me, Calvin Ridley. I'm begging you. My only lawyer doesn't even have his degree yet and is Canadian. I don't know if the law is the same here.
And is on Calvin Ridley's side.
Yeah, exactly. And he's on your side. So that's a real problem for me, Calvin. Please don't sue me.
I did want to kick it off with running backs. Injured running backs. How do you project guys like Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, all returning from injuries to similar dead zone ADPs? And who do you feel the most confident with targeting, if any?
I feel like it's kind of a good year to point chase, quote unquote. Because I feel like a lot of the guys who finish the year really hot, people aren't going to want to believe in. Cam Akers, who had the work and then nothing else. Rashad Penny, who had been bad for 3.5 years before becoming Adrian Peterson for 6 games. I'm sensing a lot of Elijah Mitchell hesitance too, which I kind of understand because there's just so many variables there about, is Deebo Samuel the best change of pace running back in the NFL now? Is the dual threat quarterback going to cut into his workload and his potential touchdown upside? But I see Kyle Shanahan can't almost physically cannot stop himself from giving a rookie 20 carries per game. I do kind of lean into that. Cam Akers too. I mean, I can understand some Cam Akers truthing, coming back from such a serious injury and then just looking like the stereotype kind of what you don't want to look like coming back from such a serious injury where the power was there. So he's always been such a powerful back, but the explosion wasn't there. He's kind of a Rashad Penny type back, where he's supposed to be if you give him 20 carries, 3 or 4 of them are going to gain 15 or 20 yards. That just wasn't happening for Cam Akers. But I kind of still viewed it as almost a best case scenario for Cam Akers because the explosion wasn't back and the big plays weren't back. But we know coming back from an ACL or an Achilles, they all say, pretty much every player says, the biggest hurdle is the mental hurdle. He knows now, he went out there and he handled the ball 20 times. Multiple games. He knows his body is going to hold up. Now he gets 6 more months to rehab. He kind of gets the best of both worlds in his rehab where he got the mental part out of the way way quicker than anyone was expecting. And now he can hopefully get his body back to almost 100%. The Rams just love the guy too. I mean, he's on 1.5 legs. Yeah.
That they were playing in the most important game ever. He was insane. Absolutely a liability to their success, and they continued to hand the ball to him anyways.
Exactly.
They were Cam, you're actively losing us this game, but it's fine. You just keep toting the rock, buddy.
Exactly. So they just love the guy so much. So I'm gonna have a very, very hard time not being all in on Cam Akers this offseason.
I'm kind of with you. Of those 3, he's probably the one I'm drafting first. In a redraft or best ball setting, I probably like Dobbins the most in a dynasty setting, just based off of the talent. But Dobbins, I feel is our generation's Nick Chubb in the sense that I'm just always going to like him more in dynasty than in best ball, since I feel his talent insulates him long term. You're always going to want to get him the ball, but I'm just not so sure with the way that Baltimore prefers to split some carries around. They don't really throw to their backs that much. To me, he strikes me as a guy who's probably going to be more of a low-end RB1, but a low-end RB1 for a long time, whereas Akers' star, probably I think has the potential to burn brighter. However, it may burn out faster. We'll see. He's the guy I would draft first in the redraft. Yeah, it could definitely go badly. I just, like Pat said, I can't imagine him doing worse. This would be the example would be if, for instance, we were having a show with like a really esteemed guest, like, I don't know, like Patrick Daugherty, for instance. And then like every time Billy opened his mouth, he like had some sort of like Tourette's where he just said something either like deeply offensive or like wrong, or his like internet stopped working. And yet like I just continued to pitch like segments to Billy over and over again, despite him like actively tanking the show.
Why did I become the awful one?
Billy's catching a
No,
bullet.
this is not happening. I'm just saying, like, if it were, and I continued to like pitch you, like, I feel like the audience would be like, oh, you know what? Like, Billy almost ruined that show today, but like they kept giving him segments. Like, I guess he's fine. He's not in jeopardy of leaving the podcast. And that's kind of what Sean McVay did with Cam. Like, it was just like, I have your back, buddy. Like, it was like my like fetish for Cam Akers, like, clearly is more valuable to me than a Super Bowl. And like, I respect that.
Can we just finally put Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel to bed now? The guy came back on 1.5 legs, was super inefficient. And they're like, sit down. We don't need you.
It was weekend at Cam Akers. They're like, no, he's fine. No. He's fine, guys.
I wish I could remember this. Who gave me the statistic? I believe it was the Tailgate podcast. But the Rams had something like 0 successful runs in the Super Bowl ahead of the.
I thought you were saying the whole postseason.
And something like 6 teams had ever done that. And in total, they had like 3 runs over the course of the game ahead of that. And they had like 26 at that point. It was historically bad. I'm going to talk about the guy we haven't talked about yet, and that's Travis Etienne, who I really like. I think provided he's good to go, he's going to come back to a full workload. That is until the Jaguars draft Breece Hall in the first round. So
okay.
But up until then, I think Travis Etienne is set to have a good amount of workload and should be pretty productive in a team that I'm expecting to have an offense take a pretty big step next year.
Well, one thing with Etienne that I like, and I'm also Team Etienne. I'm actually probably the lowest on Dobbins of our group specifically, which is weird because, you know, he's one of my guys. But Greg Roman will find a way to fucking ruin him like he ruins everything else, because that guy's I'm not going to go there today. Not today. Not again anyway. But with Etienne, when the rumors of Byron Leftwich started kicking around, it was a really fun story. But I said on this show that it's more of a publicity play. Like, it felt like Tony Khan of AEW was running like a storyline through the Jacksonville Jaguars with Byron Leftwich coming to town. And I love Doug Peterson. I love Doug Peterson for what he can hopefully fix in Lawrence, who looked pretty bad. Which another statement that I like to make here is if Trevor Lawrence fails, it just further proves that the only person that can predict and scout quarterbacks is God, because no one else has seemed to figure it out. This guy was touted as the 101 for years, and he looked worse than Sam Darnold, and that's something to say. And yeah, I'm at the point where I'm taking shots at my guy there. But Etienne at this point, at his ADP, and he's going, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't checked today, but if I'm not mistaken, he's ranked below the other two.
Yeah,
significantly.
He is.
I'd rather wait and draft receivers and just sit on Etienne. At this point, he's the best value for Dynasty, and I think he has as much of a chance as being in that same tier as the other guys by the end of the year. So I want Etienne for like.
He might have the highest ceiling of any of them from a pass catching perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like Dobbins, I think, can catch passes, but the Ravens, that just doesn't really happen in the Ravens scheme. Like, it's really like, I mean, Lamar Jackson's check down is the scramble, right? So it's really hard to envision a Lamar Jackson running back having more than 40, 50 catches in a season. Like, that seems like a pretty like firm cap. And like Akers, I think, is a fine pass catcher. He's not a special pass catcher, but like Etienne, you know, he could potentially have like a DeAndre Swift-esque ascension. I think that's more possible.
This is what annoys me about the Ravens and the pass catching. So Freeman, when he finally got put into the offense, which is pretty much week 5, so shout out to Tyson Williams for a couple of weeks.
God,
but
he was so good.
3 receptions, 2 receptions, 3 receptions, 6 receptions, and then 1 in the game that Lamar Jackson got hurt. So Lamar Jackson was actually checking down to running backs for, you know, in more and more as he went on, and just stopped YOLOing the ball for 4 interceptions against Cleveland. But if that's the case, if Dobbins is out there, who's a better player and athlete than Freeman, if he just gives him those 3 receptions a game and dumps it down, I think that boosts Dobbins so high. It's not really probable, in my opinion. But yeah, there's that. Next up, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? Next up, I want to talk about what's your take on some of the younger running backs around the league with some uncertainty baked in. I know you mentioned Eli Mitchell a little bit earlier, but Michael Carter, who's like a Twitter darling, a lot of the nerds like him. Devin Singletary, routinely dumped on at every turn, but potentially won some leagues for everyone last year. And then, of course, James Robinson or Aaron Jones.
I was going to say, I might be ready to go all systems go on Devin Singletary if the Bills don't really add anyone like major in the draft or free agency, because they've been like screwing around with committees for like basically the entirety of the Sean McDermott era. And then, like the infamous Pats game where the Pats didn't throw and the Bills couldn't run. It was like the Bills had like a come to Jesus moment where they're like, we can't have like this 2 or 3 man committee anymore. We just got to like commit to someone. Like they were never going to commit to Zach Moss because he's just not good. And like Devin Singletary might not be great, but he's like actually fairly versatile. Like he's kind of like, he's almost like a bizarro world Jamal Williams, where he's like kind of just competent at everything. Like he's a different like kind of athlete than Jamal Williams. He's kind of like a classic like jack of all trades, master of none. And like if they don't invest like anything in that backfield and they kind of run it back with Devin Singletary, I feel like he could be kind of like a David Montgomery type guy where like no one like wants to like him, but he's just in the right place at the right time. And it's like a big, like he's like a legit RB1 in fantasy. Like where like no one wants it to happen, but like it just seems like it might happen.
We've all been there, man. Like we've all been in these spots where you're going through life and maybe you've been dating the same kind of girl for a while, but you're like, you know what? Like I think I can do better. And you're seeing your buddies are with some hot chick, and you keep thinking like, this is the kind of girl I want. This is the kind of girl I want. And all these end badly, right? And so the Bills, like, they thought that they wanted to bang Zach Moss. And they realized eventually, like, no, Zach Moss, like, sure, he has those girthy thighs that I appreciate in a cloud of dust. But at the end of the day, Devin Singletary's the one who has a nice little shepherd's pie waiting for me when I get home. Devin Singletary is reliable. And eventually they decided, like, I'm out of the phase where I need to be popping a molly, go into the club and try to hit on some Zach Moss type. I just need to come home with Devin. And I do think that the Bills found themselves a little bit. And I think that the idea, I mean, of these three, right, of Carter and Mitchell and Singletary, this is what I would ask the fine folks at home to consider, like, is it that much more, like, are Carter and Mitchell that much more impressive and that much more entrenched? Like, maybe. I just don't think that the difference is in line with the opportunity cost. And I don't think that the benefit's high enough either. Like, Mitchell probably is never going to catch a lot of passes. They were playing a fullback over him on third downs. And San Francisco never really throws that much to backs. Like, he might catch enough passes, but I don't think he's ever going to catch a difference-making amount. And Carter plays on the freaking Jets, so that's a limiting factor, right? But Singletary has the opportunity to be a 3-down back on a fantastic offense, and he's the cheapest. So that's also the guy I like is reliable girlfriend that you eventually settle for in your middle ages, Devin Singletary.
I mean, I can't argue that. It's process for me on this one. It's just which one do you feel like going down with your ship with the most? Billy, how do you approach these within your process yourself, and which is kind of your guy? I think I know the answer, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I opened the show with my answer. It's Elijah Mitchell. Like, Elijah Mitchell had such a good season from an efficiency standpoint that, I mean, the only huge knock around him was he wasn't the plan. Like, they went into the season expecting Mostert and the draft pick that we don't care about anymore.
The ghost of Trey Sermon, yeah.
And we're not going to talk about it.
Oh no, Pat.
No, I actually wasn't. I was not like a big into like Trey Sermon or anything, but I'm just not going to talk about it. I was actually into Elijah Mitchell and somehow didn't get him in any of my dynasty leagues.
Oh no,
like
Jacob just found a new friend.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
me and Jacob were
I loved good old Mitchell.
yeah. Mitchell for cheaper was always the play. Go ahead, Billy. Sorry.
Yeah,
You keep cutting me off.
No, it's fine. But yeah, I really like Elijah Mitchell. I think he has every possibility to be an RB1 for the next 3-4 years. And if the Shanahan system does what they should, which is the smart move and take their profit at running back and let the guy play out his rookie contract, I mean, there's no reason I could see that he won't be that good of a player. With how good of an offense that is, like they can't afford to sit back and stop Mitchell. The only downside is the best running back in the league plays wide receiver for the 49ers and Deebo Samuel. So hopefully they opt to let Deebo take it easy. Maybe he doesn't need that many goal line carries.
I have a question for Billy. Let's say hypothetically you were in a dynasty league. What would someone need to offer you on top of Elijah Mitchell for, say, Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Oh, God, I have no idea off the top of my head.
Is Jacob trying to send Billy a trade live on show again?
This
is what happening right now? Because I see Jacob looking down.
How about say what would you have to add on top of, say, I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson?
Yeah,
to get
that's
Elijah
exactly
Mitchell.
What's happening right now.
I'm just throwing out names. I don't know. I'm
trying to diagnose what league he's talking about.
No references at all. Pat, funny thing with the San Francisco, I heard on a good football show a conversation of the chance that Trey Lance actually doesn't even get the starting job guaranteed, and that Shanahan could pull his tricks and bring a Marcus Mariota because he's so convinced he needs a veteran presence. And I can't quite remember who had mentioned it, but you don't think that's an actual possibility, do you? And not only that, but Trey Lance loses the battle to a Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, that was more of a Denny theory than me. But I mean, it was weird. The tone on Trey Lance was always very bizarre. Like they had like instant buyer's remorse, but then they finally did. It was like once it became clear late in the season that he would not be starting, it was almost like Kyle Shanahan finally decided, like, all right, we tore the young man down enough. Like we're gonna start building him back up for 2022 when he's gonna be the starter. Because he did like finally like totally change his tune on Trey Lance toward the end of the season. But Denny's theory was somewhat compelling. But I think that even Kyle Shanahan's not gonna do something like that crazy and like understands that they have to go with Trey Lance in 20. I have a question for you guys though. Is like, what is the reason for like the Elijah Mitchell like hesitance, both in terms of like rankings and just like early ADP? Is it really just as simple as
I'm the only hesitator, so I can take that.
Yeah,
for the record, like I love Elijah Mitchell. Like he was a top 5 running back for me in last year's class pre-draft. Obviously not post-draft because he went in round 6. But like I legitimately do love Elijah Mitchell like a lot. That being said, like first of all, he plays running back, so that puts us on a rocky territory in terms of my appreciation for him in general. But no, my fear is like last year he basically split carries with no other running back. He split carries with Deebo, and that's it, right? Like Kyle Juszczyk and Hasty took third downs. I guess my stand is like Deebo's not going anywhere. Their entire season turned around because they started giving him carries. I expect that to continue. Then, like, I just, like, Juszczyk is a freaking fullback. Hasty sucks. So, to me, if they're using, like, Hasty and Juszczyk on third downs, that tells me they just don't want to use Mitchell on third downs, which is fine. And so, I guess I feel like his ceiling is kind of what we got last year. I just struggle to see how it gets that much better than that. And I think it's likely that they find a running back that they don't totally despise. Like, Sermon clearly... like did something to deeply upset Kyle Shanahan. They didn't want to use him. Jeff Wilson, whenever they tried him, was just really quite bad. So I expect that like Mitchell will probably be the lead back, but I expect him to at least split like some carries. And then Lance is going to come in and he's going to take carries. So I guess I just see him as like a primarily rush first running back who's probably as more likely to lose more carries than gain more carries. And then you add in all of the extra insecurities, right? Like, what he was a 6th round pick. What if they draft someone? What if they sign someone? What if whatever? Like, it's just, to me, it's just on a strict process level. If someone gives me a 1st round pick for Elijah Mitchell in Dynasty, I just have to take it. It was kind of the same thing I felt with James Robinson last year. Like, I also liked Robinson as a late round flyer. I also think Robinson was good. And, if they didn't draft ETN, like, then we probably would have saw what we saw last year, which is that he was perfectly fine. But yeah, I mean, yes, I don't know if he's necessarily, like, I do think he's a lower ceiling than Dobbins in the sense that I think Dobbins, like, will play on passing downs. My issue with that is just I don't know how much that even matters in the context of the Ravens offense. I do think he's a lower ceiling because I don't think he's as talented. Like, I think Mitchell's really good. I think Dobbins is possibly one of the 5 best rushers in the world. And then most importantly, I think that the floor is lower. Like, Dobbins was a 2nd round pick, elite prospect. Like, there's just way more insulated value. Whereas with Mitchell, like, players that are drafted there have a tendency of eventually bad things happen to them.
So that was a pretty compelling argument. Basically, he had everything go right as a rookie, and then he's just kind of like threatened in all the most important areas where he's threatened at the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
He's threatened as a pass catching back. He's threatened as like when it's like a really important carry, are they going to have 2 better options in Debo and then the dual threat quarterback? So that is a pretty compelling way to lay it out, actually.
I think for myself, I'm hesitant right now. If he gets past the first hurdle, which is free agency, fine. If they re-sign Mostert, I am all systems go on Mitchell because Mostert will, tweak his knee getting out of bed and he'll miss 7 weeks. And so I'm not really worried about that. I know. I believe Daniel was mentioning in the comments that they're going to re-sign Mostert. Don't really care. If he gets past that first hurdle, great. What I'm worried about is somebody like James Cook getting drafted in the 4th round to replace Hasty, because what James Cook is really good at is pressing the outside and catching passes. So if they go with a player like him and say the 4th round, which I feel like is a very Shanahan thing to do, then I'm immediately ultra concerned for Mitchell. So that's where I'm at with them personally in my process, if you would. Look, I want to touch on a little bit of wide receivers before we get everyone out of here and in bed on time. It feels like I like this one here. It feels like there are 2 roads to go by in dynasty startups at wide receiver between the old guard. I'm very mad that Jacob put Tyreek in here because he knows I disagree with that. Tyreek, Adams, Kupp, and the new wave of AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Lamb, Waddle, Higgins, etc. Which route do you prefer taking at cost? And how about in 2022 drafts where Jefferson and Chase have surpassed Adams and Hill and ADP?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in on the young guns, basically because of the 2 guys who now they can't get any higher in the ADP, of course, of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, who are just true once in a decade talents. Where you like Jamar Chase, your build is the best receiver prospect since Amari Cooper, and then you immediately hit you live up to every facet of your pre-draft billing as a rookie, where he got a top 1 percentile outcome basically in all of his pre-draft strengths. That's impossible to ignore. And then just Justin Jefferson, look at what Justin Jefferson did in offense that actively conspired against him. Where they just have to, the run where they're playing every game to turn it into a coin flip on the final possession. And he just posts just stratospheric numbers on that offense. And to me, they're the most valuable dynasty league assets we've probably seen in years, at least several years. Just true, I feel knock on wood, famous last words, can't miss dynasty building blocks. I haven't been as excited about dynasty building blocks as I have as those 2 guys in a really, really long time.
All right, I'll make the question about them then. If how many quarterbacks would you take in a super flex dynasty startup before those wide receivers?
Oh my gosh, let's see here. I've actually got
and would you take any running backs, or specifically, I guess I should say, would you take Jonathan Taylor? Because I can't imagine you're taking any other running backs.
And Jonathan Taylor would be in the mix because another guy who I just love when people Jonathan Taylor's a guy who now has become his pre-draft profile, this freak, this guy who busts this long runs every game no matter what. But I wouldn't take Jonathan Taylor over either of those receivers. In a super flex, I mean, kind of hard to say you wouldn't do Josh Allen at this point. Because Josh Allen, he's He's like the Jonathan Taylor of quarterbacks. He's the Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase of quarterbacks. You'd probably still take Patrick Mahomes in a super flex, wouldn't you? Because like, has anyone had a higher base? Speaking of baselines, like Patrick Mahomes' baseline might be like the highest in the history of super flex, and he's had a few like floor seasons in a row. But another ceiling season is coming.
Yeah, but floor seasons are 4,900 yards minimum.
Say the baseline's so high, and like another ceiling. He's gonna have another 50 touchdown season. So I would take the receivers over Justin Herbert. I think, even though I love Justin Herbert, I think I would take the receivers. Kyler Murray has been my guy for so long, but like being being a prisoner to recency bias. Like right now, I think I would definitely take both receivers over Kyler Murray.
All right.
Okay. That's fair.
I typically prefer when my Superflex building block, like him and his team, like don't hate each other.
Yeah. That's all.
Good.
Yeah.
It's hard to get.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
With the question being at cost, generally speaking, AJ Brown is gone. Jacob, what is his ADP rate? He's usually gone.
I think he's
4, 2, 3.
Usually going as the third wide receiver off the board in Dynasty, but it depends. Like after those top two, it can go in a number of different ways. Like I've seen the case for Lamb wide receiver 3, Waddle wide receiver 3, Debo. There's still the people that like Kopp or Hill. Like there are options at Dynasty wide receiver 3 right now.
I think I would maybe do Kupp. Just like take 2 or 3 years of Kupp. AJ Brown, man, like a guy who's like still like 25, but like from like the jump the past 2 seasons was like already requiring maintenance days and practice and like then missing time.
Oh yeah,
he's got a very, very concerning injury.
The funny thing is every week when we have to update Jacob on how many times AJ Brown has walked off the field and come back. There's an emotional roller coaster. Oh great, he's hurt again. He's back, baby. We're in it. He's hurt
the
again.
Brown experience. Back. Yeah, look, I guess I will find more support for the AJ Brown corner when we bring Gretsch on the show next week. I look forward to actually having an ally for once on my AJ Brown crusade.
Yeah,
that's true.
Billy's
God, I'm just catching sprays today. I'm all over AJ Brown.
With AJ, I gotta say, it's not just the injuries that he's had. It's like I was more concerned about before the games he missed the past few years, because where he was like already requiring maintenance days. Like this is not a great.
No, my favorite Thursday tradition is that every single week, like we have to get. This is why you hate him, Pat, because you have to write a stupid blurb every Thursday. AJ Brown missed practice today, probably precautionary.
Yes.
Like he adds an extra 30 minutes to your week.
You definitely read Roto-World every week. The fact
and then Friday, right? Every single week you get to do. Thursday, AJ Brown missed practice today. However, this has been a theme with Mr. Brown, and so it's likely precautionary. And then Friday, AJ Brown is back at practice this week. There is no injury designation, and you can consider him for all lineups as a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1.
Yeah, you got the job, by the way.
Yeah, unbelievable. Like, at what point? I just want to say this one quick. At what point do you think you'd be willing to move the guys like Tyreek Hill and the Cooper Kupps and Devontae Adams for the Elijah Moores and the, darling young wide receivers? What does that take for you in your gap, just personally, when you're approaching Dynasty, especially in startups?
You talking to me?
I am.
Tommy. I'd be leaning on the old guard because I've learned the hard way in Dynasty, like projecting like more 2-3 years in the future is just kind of like, it's just like whatever. It doesn't work out a lot. And I'd still just be more comfortable taking even 2 years of Devontae Adams over say like Elijah Moore's career, even though I love Elijah Moore. I'd rather just bet on the next 2 years of Devontae Adams than the next 10 years of Elijah Moore, as much as I love Elijah Moore. And even if there's just always a market for those guys, no matter what, I feel like you can sell high on guys longer than you get credit for a lot. Or even if Devontae played 9 games this year, you could probably still trade him for a second round pick or something, which, which wouldn't be the value you get now. But I'm so conservative, in my approach where I'm just I narrow the window a lot of times 2 or 3 years, and I love Elijah Moore so much. I like Amon-Ra too, but I would take the old guys basically 10 times out of 10.
I was asking because that's kind of my approach. So I just wanted to see if there was another person like me that does accept some of the old souls. Jacob, look, we're gonna take a quick.
Jacob's Canadian. I mean, it's just like.
So am I. Hey, so am I.
Oh my
Like, I mean,
gosh!
you have to-
By
you have
the
to
way, I didn't
understand,
know the
like,
nationalities of anybody.
You
when I
have to understand in Canada,
I'm
especially
Texan.
in BC. Like in BC, we have an NDP government. Like there's such a larger social security net in Canada. Like you have to think about what old people do to your roster. Like if they start having bumps and bruises, and like you have to start doing old age security. Like I understand in America, you just let those people die, but like there's a real cost to pay up here.
Yeah,
Oh my
Jacob is in
God.
a mood.
Jacob, please come to America and expand our social safety net. By the
Oh
way.
I think
my
I just I don't know. I think you should ask Daddy about this. He might appreciate
Denny,
this.
we gotta get you on the pod with Denny. All right.
My also shout out to Denny for playing Canadian CFL DFS. Love to see it.
Denny is fired, by the way.
We're gonna take a quick second before we get our final thoughts here and wrap up the show with Pat. Okay, thanks. Sit tight.
Lockett's a good player. Like I'm fine giving Lockett some love. I know I've made a brand out of hating on him. That's fine.
Love you, Tyler Lockett. Your lone defender on this podcast
Not
network.
true. I literally just drafted him as we were on air. So
What
I-
is
You
with
hated
people
Tyler Lockett
speaking
for
when I
life.
am speaking? God fucking damn it.
Okay, Karen.
I just want to
Oh my
talk.
God.
Bonus episode.
Bonus goddamn episode. All right. So fuck my point. Fuck DK Metcalf. Fuck the Seahawks. Russ to the CFL. He's going to play with the goddamn Michigan Panthers. USFL. He's playing for Jeff Fisher. They're going 7-7 in a 10-team league. I don't fucking care. Tom,
They
your turn.
only played 10 games.
Tom, your turn.
Oh my God. Well, I'm gonna hold on.
Billy
Oh
just
my
went
God.
full kindergarten teacher.
That is a clip from Mob Ties Part 2, which you can go and catch up
Really
on.
milking that one.
It's my favorite. It is and it is the people's favorite clip, which is important for the people. As we get out of here, Pat, with our guests, we like to ask them one question. And because I am the host and also a baseball fan, I get to pick what the final question is. So I just want to ask you what your favorite Boston Red Sox memory
Was it when they
is.
put in Martin Perez with the bases loaded?
Oh God.
Well, first off, I gotta ask, what is the origin of the Red Sox question? Because I'm a Red
I thought-
Sox enemy.
You're a Red Sox enemy. I
an
thought you were
enemy.
a fan.
No. I'm an
I
enemy.
got bad information.
I'm a fan of a red team, the St. Louis.
Are you a St. Louis
Cardinals.
Cardinals fan?
Oh,
As you may
no.
see.
Oh, I
my
do
least. I'll tell you
apologize.
my
I
least
remember you
favorite.
tweeting
Billy's
about
gone.
the Sox during the playoffs.
Well,
and so
I did
thought you
tweet
were
a lot.
fan.
I tweet a lot about baseball, so I seem like a fan of like every team.
Okay.
The classic.
my bad,
It's like
my
October.
bad.
Like, why won't you shut up about base? I thought you were
Okay.
a football writer.
That's more than fine. Favorite Cardinals reference.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
for
would say
the
my
listeners.
least favorite Boston Red Sox memory is the
When they
2004
beat the
World
Cardinals
Series.
in multiple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where just
Wait, I
everything
just want to
about
be
it
clear.
was-
Which World Series that we beat you are you talking about?
Oh God. Okay, fellas.
Hey, you know, it's funny too that we had beaten the Red Sox in we had played the Red Sox in like 4 World Series before 2004 and had won all of them. And yeah, now they keep beating us in the World Series. Do you guys know that St. Louis and Boston are the only 2 cities that have played in all 4 major sports championships? Because the Atlanta Hawks used to be the St. Louis Hawks.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
oh.
Not
So,
a
That is a fair.
A great,
Not
great
anything.
trivia question. And then my favorite Cardinals memory is, of course, David Freese in the 2011 Game 6 World Series versus the Texas Rangers, and
has to be.
definitely, and Albert Pujols in Game 5 of the 2005 NLCS. The series we ended up losing, hitting a 3-run homer off Brad Lidge in the 9th inning, was the single greatest sports moment, not like series, whatever. Single greatest sports moment of my life was the Albert Pujols Brad Lidge home run.
I love that. For me, I have a Cardinals favorite moment. Look, I played outfield for a really long time, and I can't, off the top of my head, remember because I was thinking Red Sox, but I can't off the top of my head remember. Oh my gosh, I want to say it was maybe
blame
Edmonds,
Jacob.
but running backwards, and he scaled the wall and robbed a home run of. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember which Toronto Blue Jay, but I tried to emulate the picking the ball from the crowd moment. And I just remember he picked it, grabbed it, stared the fan down, had the ball, and carried it back with him. And I tried to emulate that.
So this was a Cardinal that did this?
Yeah.
I think that might have been Mark Whitten, but that would require interleague play, which didn't start till like 1997.
No, it was in the 2000s because that's when I was really watching the.
Why can't I remember?
Jays
It sounds like something Jim Edmonds would do. But,
yeah, that's in my head. That's what I'm picturing. But again, like I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But I tried to emulate that in Little League every game, and I just allowed a lot of home runs. So thanks to the Cardinals for that one.
I mean, my favorite Cardinals memory, and for the record, I apologize. This is the worst is when I write show sheets and then Tom asks the questions. And then
I actually saw the show sheet and thought I should ask about that one, but I figured as one of you were like just like an unforgivable Red Sox fan, basically.
Yeah, well, I am.
That's him.
And here I was. This is actually, honestly, like, I don't even know why you're on the show. It's the entire reason I asked you on the show is I had this bad assumption. No, I mean, this is like always funny for my Twitter is like, football is like my second favorite sport. My favorite sport is basketball. And I tweet about the Celtics constantly. And every time that the Celtics like go on a playoff run or whatever, which was less lately, but like I start tweeting about basketball and then I just see my follower count die.
Hey, stick with it. I'm used to it too. As someone who tweets about every sport, I'm used to it too. You guys.
And I was experiencing this with baseball last year. It's like when the Red Sox were making their run, I'm just tweeting about the Red Sox because I mean the beauty of getting this fantasy account is I've now just forgotten how to watch sports without the dopamine rush of sweet interactions. And I just specifically remember you tweeting constantly through that series. And I was like, oh, anyone who's like tweeting this much about this Red Sox series must be a fan.
Well, you know what happened is quite literally the first time in my life I ever rooted for the Red Sox, but against the Houston Astros, I was going to be rooting for the Boston. So like I did become.
So I'm not insane. You were indeed rooting for the Red Sox.
I did. I bandwagoned. Okay. I bandwagoned them against the Rays, who I hated, and also the Astros, who I hated. So I did bandwagon the Red Sox for the entire postseason. So you were not hallucinating.
Okay.
You did see many positive Red Sox.
Well,
tweets.
And specifically, I remember Martin Perez tweets, and I was like, no non-Red Sox fan would like understand the pain of like coming back from commercial and they're like, Alex Corres turned the ball over to Martin Perez.
Well, that was because I'm a huge fantasy baseball player, and as someone who has streamed Martin Perez, it never ever goes well.
Like I was watching this. This is no longer a Cardinals memory, but it's a fun story. I was sitting in the middle of a constitutional law lecture, and because this game started in the afternoon, I was like, okay, well, I just have my notes on one side of the computer and I have the game streaming on the other side. And like, I'm watching as like Chris Sale attempts to be dealing. Anyway. And they bring in frickin' Perez and I'm like in the middle of a lecture and the prof's up there talking about constitutional law. And I'm just like this. I'm in this group chat with all these other Red Sox. It's like, Perez?
You're like, suspend the Constitution. Like, this should not be allowed.
I would like to have a challenge. Anyway, that's my least favorite Red Sox memory. But my favorite Cardinals memory is, every time we played you in the World Series. It went great.
Hey,
Billy?
Not before 2004.
Well, luckily I was not alive for any of those World Series because
I remember the 67 World Series well, all right?
Yeah, the time between them winning in 2004 and their previous World Series, luckily I didn't spend a lot of that on Earth. So,
Billy?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the Red Sox, but now I get to do the Cardinals. I have an irrational hatred for the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's fine.
And the only reason is because they were very good when I was growing up watching baseball. I'm a Brewers fan.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I know it's
a
not
rational
true.
hate. It's not irrational.
I know it's not true because this isn't how baseball works. But every time I watch the Brewers play the Cardinals, the Brewers lost. Every game without
probably
fail.
because the Brewers weren't very good for probably most of your childhood.
Yeah. Everyone remember our all-star Corey Hart.
Didn't he wear sunglasses at night?
So now,
he's that type of dude.
So now I have an absolute like pure hate. I am not like a person who takes sports rivalries to heart, and The only one I really disdain is the St. Louis Cardinals because they had the audacity of being good when I was like 8.
And that's fine. Yeah, I would try to we have to embrace that. That's a good thing. I mean, if people are hating our team, that means they were. And I say we with the Cardinals.
Yeah,
I say we with all Toronto sports because I'm as depressed as they are. So, and Billy, I understand because Toronto loses to the Tampa Bay Rays every time they play, and it is the most infuriating thing on planet Earth because the Tampa Bay Rays are constantly built by a bunch of nobodies that
they're a
scam.
They're
100% a scam. Look, fantastic show, Pat. Big thank you. We're going to go with the usual around the horn and give you last call, final thoughts, and what you have going on. I want to start with Billy.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at BigBillyFF. I'm about to start putting out mock drafts for each one of the 32 teams. So that'll be fun. We're going to see how good I can do. I'm pretty sure I'm going to piss off every person who's a fan of any team I'm drafting for. So, but we're going to have a grand old time.
Use the platform for what it's for, making people mad. Jacob?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, of course, FF_RTDB. If the Celtics keep winning games, my ratio of Celtics tweets to football tweets will continue to tilt in a way that you won't like. However, we'll be back, of course, with lots of shows here, but I'll also be live on Wednesday for my other show, Dynasty Intervention with Chase and Shane. We got Rich Rebar coming on Wednesday, and then Dwayne McFarland coming on next week. So that's going to be super fun. And then I should have my first article out in about a month on Player Profiler tomorrow. My hiatus from writing has ended, and I'll have the first in my off-season series titled Thinking About Thinking, where I'm just going to be talking a lot about probability, some of the underlying biases that we bring into analysis, and specifically in this regard, I sort of want to talk about a lot of the underlying assumptions that go into analytics-based prospecting models.
Love that, man. Look, I'm, again, your host of the Most Thomas Hands. I'm Thomas Simple FF. I will have my newest Hollywood Brown article up on Fantasy Intervention. This week, I have a piece coming out for goingfor2.com about why I think Trey Lance is a 2022 breakout star that should be number one on everyone's list.
Please,
so take that,
Denny.
Take that, Denny Carter. And look, again, I just want a huge shout out to Pat for joining our small little group here.
No, seriously, thanks for having me. You guys have got the podcast mixed down where you guys all seem very smart, but also like to have fun.
I'm done with shit.
Awesome time. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, check me out on the Twitter machine at the ROTO Pat. And before I fired Denny, we actually did co-write a free agency primer, which will be going up on NBCSportsEdge this week. I'll be podcasting with Denny. Keep it locked to our website because, we're going to be going nuts with free agency news over the next 2 weeks. I have my coach rankings up hopefully in like a month. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. Honestly, an awesome show. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. You've now jumped up one tier to my first favorite Pat at NBCSportsEdge.
that's tough because Corain invites devotion amongst his fans, so that's like no easy feat to jump.
I love Corain as well.
So have a Corain fanboy say I've jumped him, that's a big deal. That's huge.
Everyone, this has been the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. Look, tomorrow, it doesn't stop. We have Alfred Fernandez, co-creator of, Campus to Canton. He's on tomorrow. We have Ben Gretsch, March 15th. We have Josh Larkey, March 22nd. And Saturday for Full Tilt Dynasty podcast presents the Fantasy Walkabout. We have at Shane is the worst to come and discuss more trades. And look, I like to leave the show the same way I always do. Be kind. Don't treat people like human garbage. Don't commit any, gambling felonies or felonies at all. Check in on your loved ones because you never know what's going on with them. Remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and your best days, well, they're always spent tilted. Good night, everybody.
Clear eyes, full hearts. Can't lose.